It's blue blood versus new blood as Alabama faces Cincinnati in the semifinal Cotton Bowl. The Tide making the playoff for the 7th time in its 8 years of existence, trying to become the first team to repeat in the playoff era. The Bearcats, meanwhile, the only remaining unbeaten in college football, and they've already made history, becoming the first Group of 5 program to make the playoff. But Luke Fickell says they have much, much more to accomplish.
We don't want to think we're carrying some flag for, the non-big schools, so to speak. We just want to be us.
Despite Cincy's Cinderella label, they were in a better spot to make the playoff than Alabama entering championship Saturday. The Tide were underdogs for the first time in 6 years heading into the SEC championship game, and that was all the motivation they needed to play their best game of the season.
Rice has tons of time, looks long, throws. Jamison Williams behind the defense. He's got it. Touchdown, Alabama! What a throw, what a catch.
The rat poison that you put out there this week was yummy.
After shredding a Georgia defense that many called one of the best units of all time, the Cincy defense has their work cut out for them, trying to slow down Bryce Young and the great Tide offense. It's 1 versus 4 and a trip to the national championship game on the line New Year's Eve in Arlington.
Our Chris Hassel lending his dulcet tones to our Cotton Bowl hype piece. And for more on the Cotton Bowl, let's now welcome in CBS Sports HQ college football analyst Barrett Sallee, who is in Arlington, Texas. Barrett, the Bearcats are the largest undefeated underdog since Nebraska in '93 at 13.5 points versus Alabama. But I guess the good thing, the dangerous thing, is they have nothing to lose. So for you, what's the biggest storyline for Luke Fickell and his team going into this semifinal game?
It's Desmond Ridder on the ground, and we've seen Alabama throughout the course of history in Nick Saban's tenure. He has struggled with mobile quarterbacks, but the problem with Desmond Ridder is that he's a pass-first quarterback, which puts a ton of stress on the back end of that Alabama defense. So if they can get Desmond Ridder on the ground with 50, 75 yards, get the jet sweep action going, get the zone read action going with Jerome Ford, then they're going to have a chance in this game. That's what they like to do best. And I compare Desmond Ridder as favorably toward Matt Corral, the Ole Miss quarterback. Really good through the air and definitely more than just a willing runner. He's a weapon on the ground. So the biggest thing for me with Cincinnati, if they can use tempo and get Desmond Ridder moving side to side and use him in the running game alongside Jerome Ford, then that typically is a path that has been successful, relatively speaking, against Alabama. So I think Desmond Ridder has to have a huge game. I'm talking about 275 through the air, 75 on the ground. If he can do that, then Cincinnati's going to have a chance.
For Alabama, after what they did to Georgia in the SEC title game, I mean, they have to be feeling 10 foot tall and bulletproof at this point. SEC winners, Heisman winning quarterback. So when you look at this team, what's their biggest storyline heading into this game?
Well, it's the offensive line. For 12 games, the offensive line was a liability going into the Georgia game, and then suddenly they decided they wanted to play more than competent football against the best defensive front that we've seen in a generation. So what's the real Alabama offensive line? Is it the one that was awesome against Georgia, the one that did not let Bryce Young get sacked at all? Or is it the one we saw the week before that gave up 7 sacks to Auburn, and the one that was really brutal against Florida, LSU, and some other opponents out there? Look, I think a lot of us, myself included, think they fixed the glitch, so to speak, and that offensive line will be a strength moving forward. But we only saw it for 60 minutes. There are 12 other games that suggest that maybe this is not the real Alabama, that maybe they are the team that struggles offensively up front against good front sevens. And if they do, Cincinnati is a front seven that is fully capable of doing exactly what Florida, what LSU, and what Alabama did earlier this year.
Our Barrett Sallee is in Arlington, Texas, as we get things set for the Cotton Bowl between Cincinnati and Alabama. Barrett, the line really has not moved that much since it was set a few weeks ago. The over-under has dipped to 57.5 after starting at 59. You might be able to find it at 58 in some places. What's your play on the over-under for this one?
I'm going to go under. And honestly, I wouldn't really bet this with my own money because I'm thinking like 56, 55, 56. I think the number is a really solid total because I do think in this situation, if Cincinnati's defense plays well, it's going to be low scoring. And if it's a close game, that's exactly how Cincinnati's going to win. But if Alabama just tears them apart, I do think Nick Saban will take his foot off the gas, throttle down a little bit. So the under might be in play as well. But it's such a good number. So I'm going to go under. I don't love the fact that it is so close to 56, 57 points. It's just, again, I wouldn't bet on it with my own money, Jeremy. Maybe with yours, I'd take a flyer on it.
Well, and it wouldn't be a lot, I can tell you that. The under for both teams has only hit 7 of 13 games this season. Okay, in terms of the spread play, Barrett, I mean, we've already talked about Alabama, you're 13.5-point favorites. They're 7-6 against the spread this season. The Bearcats are 8-5, but they're 2-0 against the spread versus ranked opponents. I mean, it's a long shot. What's your spread play here?
Yeah, I'm taking Alabama, and I'm laying those points. I just think that they figured things out offensively, and they're going to force this team into a shootout. They're going to force Cincinnati to have to score 35 points. And against this team, I just don't see how Desmond Ridder and Jerome Ford can make that happen. So I think you're going to see a game a lot like we saw in the SEC championship game. I will say the one caveat is I do think that Alabama will take its foot off the gas. They will cruise into the finish line knowing that they've got a big matchup against a much more difficult opponent the following week in Indianapolis, whether it's Michigan or Georgia. So I'll lay the points with Alabama. I do think they win potentially by 20 or more points.
Nick Saban in the hunt for his 8th natty and 2nd college football championship in a row. CBS Sports HQ college football analyst Barrett Sallee in Arlington, Texas, discussing the college football playoff semifinals taking place Friday. And we've all know what it's like to be in a stadium where they're testing the sound system.
Always.
Barrett did a great job there keeping his focus. As you see the two games, Cincinnati and Alabama gets things started at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That is the Cotton Bowl in Arlington, Texas. And then it will be Georgia taking on Michigan. 3 versus 2. 3 is the favorite. 7.5-point favorites. That's the Orange Bowl in Miami Gardens tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time.